everybody. Welcome back to Mr. and Mrs. Taper. I'm Sam and this is Miriam.
Hi.
And we're excited today to talk to you about the Book of Abraham. Mormon Stories did a really amazing interview with Dr. Robert Rittner. And this video is very much inspired by that, as well as we watched the whole thing. We recommend that you do as well.
Yes.
And we wanted to touch on some of the things that really stood out to us and what we really loved about that interview.
Let's talk about the history a little bit around Joseph Smith's time.
Yeah, like a bunch of stuff was shipped over from, the European area, and it arrived in America.
The Egyptian antiquities arrived in America and they were bought by a guy named Michael Chandler.
Michael Chandler took them all over the eastern United States at that time, and they eventually arrived in Kirtland, Ohio. Joseph Smith and a bunch of members donated in order to purchase these fragments and mummies from Michael Chandler. So there's a lot of speculation that Michael Chandler was saying things like, these Egyptian papyri date back to biblical times, around the time of Abraham, or he was probably naming off different biblical prophets and getting people really excited and interested in buying these mummies and the papyruses, which makes sense because Joseph Smith was telling the members, we need to purchase these, they contain the writings of Abraham and I will translate them for you. And a lot of Joseph Smith's people and his followers were really following him because they believed he was a prophet, seer, and revelator, and that he had the gift of translating from God. You're so funny. He provides all the entertainment. Just saying. Wait till he's older.
Fitting it up.
Then we'll be frustrated that he's interrupting us. So now we want to talk about the facts given by Egyptologists of why, according to their research and their understanding of Egyptian history, that Joseph Smith was not a translator, and in fact, much of what he translated was not correct at all. The few parts that people try to argue are correct were just very general based upon the image.
So Joseph Smith told the saints that the gold plates had Reformed Egyptian written on them. And Egyptologists have confirmed that Reformed Egyptian doesn't exist. It's not an actual language.
In fact, when Egyptologists looked at the characters that Joseph Smith produced to show different witnesses, they said that the characters looked nonsensical and that they did not coincide with any type of Egyptian writing or any sort of evolution of the Egyptian language, that they just looked like nonsense.
Egyptologists date the mummies and scrolls back to the
Ptolemaic
period.
Yeah, that time wasn't even close to when Abraham lived, 1,000 years after, if he did even live at all. Egyptologists and Mormon scholars alike recognize that Facsimile 1 of the Book of Abraham in the Pearl Gate Christ and Facsimile 2 do not say anything of what Joseph Smith actually translated. Egyptologists have actually told us what it actually does say. And on the Mormon Stories podcast, you can actually see how they break down every individual facsimile and compare it with what Joseph Smith wrote and what Egyptologists have discerned, and they do not add up at all. And this is accepted on the church's website right here.
I really enjoyed watching the Mormon Stories podcast and watching them break apart the facsimiles and have the Egyptologists break it down saying this is what Joseph Smith said and this is really what it says. It was really interesting because he was really far off on most of them.
Yeah, I think they counted like half points on some of them and like
they were keeping score at one time. It was so funny.
He's like 0 for 12 or 1 for 12.
It was something like that. It was entertaining.
Egyptian language doesn't really have an alphabet, according to Dr. Rittner. Basically, they would write down a bunch of consonants. They'd really leave out vowels, and the drawings would really help you identify what the writing was saying. It's very interesting.
It was very interesting.
And what's funny is Joseph Smith focused on translating all the determinants. Basically what the determinants are is it's the pictures that help you understand the writing. which is hilarious because Joseph Smith didn't know how to translate at all. He was just focusing on the determinants, which was just the pictures.
Yeah.
Guessing what the pictures were. Which anyone can do that.
Yeah, looking at them, wondering, what does this mean? This is what this really means.
Exactly.
It was very interesting. So now we're going to talk about how the church whitewashed the Book of Abraham, how they changed different phrases and wording to make it sound different than it did in the first place.
Yeah, and they even removed one important appendage from an important facsimile. But basically, in the very beginning of the Book of Abraham, it says that it's translated, and then they changed it to that it's an inspired translation, which allows them to argue that it came more spiritually to Joseph Smith. And so
actually reading right off the scrolls.
Reading right off of it, yeah, like, which is exactly what he claimed.
Yeah.
And now they're trying to twist it into it being an inspired translation, and they are saying, now it was really just all along, he was inspired. It was a tool, an instrument that God gave to him to help, the inspiration flow. Stuff like that, rather than it actually being, no, he said he could translate
this is
it.
word for word what it said.
Exactly. Yeah. Facsimile 2.
This is my
character,
favorite facsimile.
Joseph, we just want to highlight this because it's probably the funniest one. He says that this character is God, sitting on his throne. And,
and the bird
in past times, he looked like this. And then they changed it to him looking like this. And
do you see what's missing?
Do you see what was missing? Now, let's hear from Miriam. What was that facsimile in actuality?
It is the God-man sitting on his throne with his erect penis.
Yeah, so Joseph Smith, first off, didn't notice the erect penis, I guess. And the other thing is, he said that the God-man who masturbates and produces all life was God sitting on his throne. Which maybe if there is a connection, maybe that's how God produced all of the children of Abraham.
Maybe.
As numerous as the sands of the sea. That's a lot of masturbation. Man, I'm a little jealous. That God's got a cool job. Hey Miriam, thinking of changing occupations.
No, please don't. When Joseph Smith acquired the papyrus scrolls, they were pretty beat up. There were missing pieces to it, and that was due to the traveling on the ships.
Yeah.
And just on the wagons, through the countryside, all that stuff.
Imagine all that travel. Okay. And that explains why the condition of the papyrus scrolls were kind of looking like this. So as you can see, pretty tattered, pretty destroyed, and so they couldn't read all of it. They couldn't see all of the stuff going on.
Yeah, there were
and so
pieces missing.
They ended up filling in the blanks. And so Joseph Smith on facsimile 1 filled in the blanks like this. And on facsimile 2, he filled in the blanks like this. So as you can see, the portions that had to be filled in, the Egyptologists, specifically Dr. Rittner, he's like, it's nonsense. They basically pulled from several different scrolls, several different pieces, and tried to piece together this facsimile, and now it's caused it to make no sense.
And the first facsimile has a man with a black hairy body and then a white head. So I found that kind of funny, and I don't know why I didn't notice it before, that there's this white head on this black hairy body.
So now we just want to share what we loved the most from the interview. Basically, Dr. Rittner, he tears apart fundamentalist belief, and so check this out.
What I'm telling you now is that scholars have to date the book of Exodus. It had to have been composed no earlier than 700 BC, because it has anachronisms in there that couldn't have existed. No Egyptian would have been named Potiphar before what we call the Libyan period in Egypt, which is one of my periods of specialization the Berber period in Egyptian. Potiphar is Pa-di-pa-ra, the one whom Pare has given, and that has a grammatical construction that wasn't possible and wasn't used as a personal name until around 700 BC. And so it's a distinctly Egyptian name. It's in a distinctly Egyptian place, and it's grammatically only possible at this time period, like the script, which means there is not a chance, same level of absolutely wrong, that the book of Exodus can date from a patriarch who lived at the time it claims.
This is the part where Dr. Rittner talks about Joseph Smith and how he was trying to make sense of all the papyrus scrolls, but it wasn't really making any sense, and there wasn't really any mention of Abraham.
This was something that was recognized already in the 60s as soon as the papyri were rediscovered and placed in front of Aziz Astia at the Metropolitan and then given over to the church. Immediately, Hugh Nibley began to recognize that from his work that he did then subsequently with Klaus Baer, he knew what this text actually said, and that it did not say anything of the sort, which led to a variety of explanations as to why not. Where was the text? Was this the text? Is translation the right word? Splitting hairs over the word translation, trying to explain where the missing manuscript was, try to account for why it says the illustration is right next to the text, except there was supposed to be a missing manuscript that would then be in between, but it can't possibly be there, so that doesn't make any sense either. But we'll try this explanation, that explanation, some other explanation, and all of it is grappling with the simple fact that we have the text, which is precisely the same as the illustration. The text translations by Smith references that illustration as being the document. We now have the document we can read, which no one could at the time he owned it. We can now read every single jot and squiggle on there, every single word, and Abraham is nowhere there.
And this is our favorite part. They talk about figure 7 in Facsimile 2, which is the god Min with his erect penis.
Masturbating everywhere.
Masturbating everywhere. Yeah. So enjoy this.
Let's go on to portion 7 of the hypocephalus. We have, according to Joseph Smith, it's representing God sitting upon his throne, revealing through the heavens the grand keywords of the priesthood, as also the sign of the Holy Ghost unto Abraham in the form of a dove. So that figure sitting down with the thing sticking out upside down, Joseph has that being God sitting on his throne, revealing the grand keywords of the priesthood, the sign of the Holy Ghost unto Abraham in the form of the dove. Now tell us, now that I've given you the correct description of figure 7 as described by Joseph Smith, and we've got it here now enlarged and turned around. Can you now tell us, Dr. Rittner, what that is actually a picture of?
Well, it's the god Min Ammon, a form of the creator god who begat the world by masturbation. He created air and moisture by his semen when he ejaculated. And he is shown in the act of basically doing that, seated in two forms, both in a human form, seated on a throne, and in a bird form, associating himself with the god Re, the falcon god of the sun.
We're really happy we were able to highlight what was said in the Mormon Stories podcast and break it down to you in a short and concise, to-the-point manner.
This was also another shelf-breaking thing for us, the Book of Abraham. It says completely different things, and there was mixed up things. Just all of it was just a big shelf breaker for us.
Yeah, the translations were not correct.
Mm-hmm.
We really love making these videos for you, and we do have a Patreon. Oh, hello. Okay. We really love making these videos for you. Hey, I'm trying. Hey. Blah, 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 blah. Boo. You silly boy. Okay. We really... Why is he
Take
interrupting
10.
me? We really love making these videos. Can't keep it straight.
Let's just wrap it up.
He's saying thank you so much for watching. We have a Patreon account really set up now. We have a bunch of different tiers and we're going to show it to you right here. Continue to watch our videos free. If you want to help us out, we have options as low as $3 all the way up to our Unruly Child tier,
I
where
love that.
you can get some really awesome benefits.
What else?
What else? And that was, hit the subscribe button, like this video if you liked it,
Leave a comment.
Leave a
Don't
comment.
Leave a comment.
and ring that bell icon if you'd like to be notified of future videos. We post every week. And Link says, bye for now. We'll see you in the next video.
Bye.
Bye.